name is Grace Butler.
Hi, I'm Katie Duggan.
And this is the Are You Well podcast. So this week I had the privilege of speaking to Jamie Walsh from Little Bows and Tiny Toes. So Jamie and I had a great conversation about mental health, depression, suicide, self-harm, loss, motherhood, mindset, social media, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. I really enjoyed this conversation. A huge thank you to Jamie for taking the time to come on the podcast, and I hope that you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I did. So tell me about yourself. Obviously you are very committed to putting out the good vibes on Instagram. Yeah. And I think anybody who is committed to putting out the good vibes always has a story for or a reason why. So how did
Grace,
you
I have
get into
loads
that?
of reasons why.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Get into them though.
So basically my kind of story is I was bullied as a kid, right? Now, like not to the extent that you'd have like trolls online, not like that hurtful, but like when I was growing up, I was a real tomboy. Right, I used to wear football jerseys, GAA jerseys, and I used to get a lot of comments on my appearance. So obviously I used to get mocked for that as well. So that was, okay, that is what it is, right? But then when I was about 15, I started to feel I didn't feel right. I just woke up one morning and things just didn't feel right, and I didn't know what it was. Thought I was going crazy. I didn't want to exist anymore. That was basically it. And not even in the sense that like I wasn't suicidal, but I just didn't want to be here anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for about 5 years I was just about turned 21. I never told a soul how I was feeling. Like I used to cry myself to sleep. I used to even I remember one day I tried to break my leg just so I could feel like something. And I remember then when I was, I was turning 21, so I think it was the start, I was still 20, I'd say it was, my birthday's in May, so it was January that year. And I just woke up one morning, I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I started bawling, crying. I was like, who am I? Who have I been the last 5 years? Like,
yeah.
So like, I remember then I was like, I need to talk to someone. So like, my dad would have been my rock, like I would have confided in him about anything. So I just went up to the house to him, because I was living at home at this time. And I went up to the house to my dad, and I sat down in front of him. I can still picture it now. I sat down in front of him and I just burst out crying. And he was like, what's wrong? I couldn't even get it out what was wrong.
Yeah.
And he thought I was pregnant. So he was like, it's okay. And I was like, I think I'm depressed. Like, and he actually broke down crying. And like years after that, he said to me that he actually wished at that time that I was telling him I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Because he knew then he could do something. He could be there for him. Like, do you know what I mean? Like he could fix the problem. Or
there's things he can do. He can, like, if you're pregnant, he can go out and he can buy you a buggy, or he can buy you, or he can take the child for an hour, or things like that. But I suppose with depression, then it's like there's nobody really knows what to do with that, and there's no cut and dry way to deal with it either, because every single person's experience is so different. So I suppose the helplessness for your dad would have been horrible at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then he was saying, right, look, you need to go to the doctor. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to go to the doctor. So anyway, he brought me to the doctor. And I remember I just sat in front of the doctor. I just sobbed. And sobbed. And he was kind of like, it's okay, get it out, let it out. So he prescribed me antidepressants at the time. And probably like a lot of people, I was very reluctant to take them. Because when, like, back then, when you think of mental health, you think of antidepressants, you think of someone who's like a zombie going around or who's not with it. And I was like, it took me a while to actually take them, but then when I started taking them, I started getting sick because they didn't agree with me, so I was vomiting. So that didn't help. But then I found a medication at the time then that helped me, and I was okay. I was on and off them for probably, what was it, 21, probably about 3 years, I'd say. I was on and off them, But then I'm trying to think now where this is going to go. So yeah, that was my 21st, and then I was fine, kind of back on track. And then I don't know what it was. I don't know, was it a build up of everything, but I just spiraled out of control completely.
Yeah.
Like, didn't care about anybody, didn't care about myself. I was drinking excessively, smoking, hanging out with the wrong people. Like, I just did not care. Like, and again, it was only for my dad. He sat me down one day. It was actually in the mansion house in town. We were having lunch.
Yeah.
And he was after meeting me after my break, and he said it to me. He was like, "Look, Jamie, like, what's going on?" And I said it to him. I was like, I'm drinking, I'm smoking. And he was like, "I give up cigarettes for you, like, you know, and you're doing this for me, like, and all this." And I was kind of like, you know what, he's right. Like, why am I doing this? So I gave myself a right kick up the arse, and I just got on with it, and I got myself over that slump.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was kind of okay for a while, and then unfortunately my dad passed away in 2015. Suddenly he was out cycling for cardiac risk in the young, charity Cry Ireland, and the irony, I suppose, was the fact it was a cardiac cycle he was on, because he had a massive heart attack while he was on the cycle. So my thing then was, like, I was living with dad at the time, so I was, after talking to him that morning before I went to work, he was fine, right as rain, laughing and joking like he always was. And then I was working, I remember I was working 7 to 11, and at 5 to 11 the phone at work rang, and it was someone looking for me. So when I dialed in the number to pick up the other line, I saw my mom's mobile number, and I was like, oh my god. And the first thing I thought was, like, this, like, it's my grandmother, something's happened to my grandmother. Did not think for a minute it was my father. So she was like, "Oh, I think your dad's after having a heart attack, blah, blah, blah." I was like, literally, I couldn't even open my locker to leave the shop. My hands were just like trembling and everything. So she said, "Look, I'll collect you from work, we'll go out to your dad." So that was fine. I was outside the shop, really upset. I was on the phone to my boyfriend at the time, and I was roaring the phone to him, and everything was like, "Look, just please calm down, you're fine, like, don't be worrying, he'll be fine." Like, so I was like, yeah, grand. Got in the car with mom said the same thing, "Don't be crying now, your dad doesn't want to see you upset." And I was like, right, okay. And we went out to A&E, and when we walked through the doors of A&E, there's 2 doors on your, when you go through, there's 2 doors on your left hand side, and one of them is like a kitchenette, kind of a family room.
Mm-hmm.
And a nurse came out and said to me, she's like, "Are you Jamie?" And I was like, yeah. And she's like, "Can you come in here for a minute?" And I was like, "No, where's my dad? I want to see my dad." And she's like, "No, please come in here for a minute." I was like, I need to see my dad. And I knew now. She opened the door, and my father's brother was standing there, and his friends that was on the side with him, and they couldn't even look at me. And I just remember screaming the hospital there. And like, then we had, my sister was in work, we tried my sister to get her to come over and all that, and it was horrible. Like, and then I identified my father because I was his next of kin. So it was all that. So, like, when dad passed away, that was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was lost, basically. And like, my father he played, like, my parents are divorced, but my father still would have played a big part in my mom's life. Like, he'd always do something for her. Like, if her car broke down, he'd go out and help her, you know, that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt then, when dad passed away, that I needed to step into his role. So, like, my sister, and like, making sure everyone else was okay. But the problem was, I was making sure everyone else was okay, I was forgetting about me.
Well, I think it's funny you should say that, because I find with me, and I can say this in hindsight, looking back at the many years of my suffering and my whatever, is that when I was at my worst internally, externally, I was just trying to help everybody. I was breaking my back to help everybody and do everything I could. Not that I was being overly helpful, because I was a basket case of emotion at the time. But that was my thing, was if something was going wrong inside, then externally I would just do my very best to help everybody else and fix everybody else's smaller problems, because I couldn't fix my bigger problems.
Exactly.
So you're definitely not alone in that mechanism as a coping mechanism. It's I wonder sometimes, was I forgetting about myself
deliberately, or was I intentionally or subconsciously forgetting about myself? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like putting that problem
aside.
away. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely a common thing that people do.
But it was like, I remember I was looking at, like, my mother actually, I got to the point, I think my mother had to go to the doctor, or to the chemist, to get me tablets because I just couldn't eat. And I was just had boil in my stomach, like, and I was just feeling sick all the time, even though I couldn't get food down me.
Yeah.
And I was in college at the time, and I took 6 weeks nearly from the day he died until I went back to college and back to work. And even when I went back to work, like, he used to come into work to me every Saturday and we go for coffee. And for weeks after, I could nearly see him coming through the door. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
But then, like, I put on this front, and I was like, okay, I got upset, and people would see I was upset, but deep down, like, it was absolutely destroying me.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, he was there talking to me that morning, and then he was gone, like, that for me for ages was just, I had so much anger.
How old were you when this happened?
So I was 24, and my dad was 53.
Yeah, like, see, like 24. It's so funny. I think at least I laugh myself at my perception of age as I've grown up. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, I remember thinking when I was 16 that 24 was like, whoa, that's so, like, you have your shit together.
Yeah, exactly. You're an adult.
And like, now I'm 27 and I look back at 24 and I'm like, I don't have my shit together then. I didn't have my shit together then. I don't have my shit together now. I still don't know what I'm doing, and I definitely didn't have a clue what I was doing then. So, like, it's so 24 is still so young to try and process something like that, and
yeah,
like,
exactly.
for it to happen so quickly as well. There's an awful lot that you have to get to grips with there. Do you know what I mean? Because there's, like, this whole thing of not getting to say goodbye, or then trying to, just like what you said, making sense of the fact that you were talking to him and then he was
exactly.
and it's this whole, I didn't really understand it until I lost my grandmother before Christmas, but it's this whole thing of like, we had warning. I knew it was coming, but it's still, when she actually died, it's still just that, like, poof.
Yeah.
Like, it's just poof, and that's kind of, even for me with the warning, I was still kind of like, wait, well, what? Sorry, what? Do you know?
Yeah.
Trying to catch up. So I can't imagine what that was like for you at the age of 24. And then, how old did you say your dad was? 53.
He was 53. Would have been 54 that December.
Yeah, like, still, he's a young man. Like, there's so much for your brain to catch up with, and for your brain to kind of process. And if you were to say for me, for the first few months after I lost my grandmother, I was in a fog. I'm still in the fog. I still feel foggy. Do you know what I mean? But then you said, were you, for the first while, were you kind of frantic, or were you, like what you said, angry, or what way were you feeling for the first few months?
Like, the first few months, I was nearly on autopilot. Like, I was just going through the motions, like, and I was, again, like, looking out, making sure everyone else is okay, and kind of probably trying to put it to the back of my head. And that, like, when was it? Probably that was 2015, September 2015, and I'd say a year later, it just all exploded, and I just
bang.
Exactly. And I wouldn't say I went nuts, but I literally, again, back to square one, didn't care about anyone else, didn't care about me. And I was a wreck. I wrecked relationships with people. I hurt people, everything, and I did not care. And at that point in time, I actually could not, I had blinkers on, I could not see anyone else. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
And I was just, like, I was in a relationship at the time for nearly 7 years. I ended that. Now, we'd been on and off for 7 years, but, like, I think if because it was there that my dad gave me the little push that I needed. So when that ended, then I just, like, I didn't know what to do, and I just went nuts, like, and I did not care. I just like, got to the point where I stopped talking to people. Like, I'd go to work, I'd be in work for 12 hours, I come home, like I had no communication with the outside world.
Yeah,
And
I can definitely relate to that. I don't know about you, but I found any time when I'm really struggling, and people start at you, like this would be the way it'd be in my head. Obviously, they're just trying to look out for you, but in my head, they were at me, and they'd be like, "Oh God, you really shouldn't be doing that." In my mind, I'd be like, "Would you ever just get off my case?"
exactly,
and then I just stop talking to them and be like, "Leave me alone, and if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to leave you alone."
Exactly. But it's mad the way, like, you just can't see it like that. They're actually genuinely trying to help you, and you think, "Oh no, I'm right, like, get away from me, don't talk to me."
It's pressure as well, I think. Like, I used to feel every time somebody would get on to me about the way I was behaving, or the way I was doing something, or the way I was going about something, it felt like more pressure that they were putting on me. And at that point, there was already so much pressure. I had already been putting so much pressure on myself that any external pressure, I just could take it. Even though they weren't actually putting pressure on me, they were only trying to help me. But in my eyes and in my head, they were trying to put pressure on me. And I was like, get out of my space, please.
I was the exact same.
Not enough room in here in my head for me and you, okay? So enough room for me and all of the pressure that I'm putting on myself. No, I can totally relate to that, because I've been there. I've been in that like self-destructive spiral, and people are like saying things to you, they're like, maybe you should try this, and you really shouldn't be doing that, and I'm like, go away. I don't need your opinion. I don't want your opinion.
Like, I was a ticking time bomb, and from the day my father died, because I didn't deal with it properly, the next 12 months, it was literally just building and building and building and building. And then it was just like bang, and the bomb went off, and I literally destroyed everything in my path. And it was I don't even know when the path of the rat of destruction stopped. But I finally started to see a bit of sense again. And I know this sounds really like cheesy now. If anyone hears me saying this, they'll probably laugh at me. But like, when Dad died, like, I never used to believe in anything. Like, I wouldn't, I'm not religious I'm not, right? And I do believe there's something there, but I don't, when Dad died, robins, there used to be robins like out of his grave and stuff. And like, I'm living in my dad's house now.
Yeah.
And
that's so funny, actually, because I'm living in my nanny's house now.
Oh, go away.
yeah.
But there's a comfort, I think, isn't there?
Oh, so yeah, I love it because I love sitting here. Like, I'm in the kitchen now, and which is where I spend all of my time. But I can see her sitting at the kitchen table, and the kitchen table that is here has been her kitchen table for as long as I can remember. That kitchen table has been there, has been hers. You know what I mean? It has been in at least, I can see it in at least 3 different houses that we lived in when I was growing up. And there's just little bits and pieces scattered around the place that remind me of so many different, because I lived with her growing up. So there's so many little bits that I can see, and it's lovely. I love it. I was worried. I was worried moving in here that it would upset me, but it doesn't at all. Funnily enough, there's the odd time I find something, or obviously I do get upset, but the house doesn't upset me. Do you know what I mean? The house is very comforting. I find,
because like this house is my family home. Like, this is where my family, we lived since I was a baby. Like, so I do find comfort in that. Like, but like last summer we were digging up the back garden, because the back garden was like a jungle. So we were digging up the back garden, but it was really weird because it was in the middle of the summer, and there was this like little robin flying around the garden, and he was there for the whole time they were doing the garden. And like, my partner, his name is Robin. Like, when I met him probably at my worst, and I felt, I know it sounds really cheesy now, but I felt like he was my Robin, like that kind of way. And
hey, look, I absolutely get behind the whole thing of of the universe sending you gifts, because I have a dog here that I found in Portugal when I was probably 3 heartbeats away from giving up on the world and giving up on my life and giving up on everything. And next thing you know, this little dog happens upon me, and I don't care what anyone says, I did not find the dog found me. And I still have her. That was when I was living in Portugal. I brought her home. I still have her. I'm sitting here looking at her now on the sofa. And I firmly, firmly, firmly believe that she was sent to me by somebody when I needed her the most.
That's
so
crazy.
Don't worry. I totally buy into your Robin.
But it's because like because obviously I have my daughter Harper now, and my dad passed away out in Passagees, just literally as you turn the corner to get onto the ferry. And we brought Harper out there on his anniversary last year, and it was myself, Robin, my sister, and Harper. And my sister, we were walking away from the spot to go back to the car. My sister's like, "Oh my God, there was a feather in the exact spot where my father passed away," and I'm actually getting goosebumps telling you now.
Yeah.
But like those are the things, like I would never have believed in anything like that before. But like now, whether it's true or not, but I find a comfort in it.
That's all. But that's all that matters. It doesn't matter whether it's real, whether it's not real, whether there's scientific proof that this is actually happening. It doesn't matter. If you take comfort from it, if it gives you that little warm feeling, and then what does it matter? It really doesn't. You know, it doesn't matter if you're looking for stones. Like if it's a stone that does it, it doesn't matter. If you take comfort from it, absolutely take your comfort from it.
Because like when I met Robin, it was like at first, okay, I didn't obviously think the whole Robin thing, but when I met him first, like we used to see each other quite often because I worked near the garage, so I used to go in quite often. And it was like I always looked, I was like, oh, he's nice, but you know what I mean, I never went any further than that. But literally I was on holidays with my mom and my sister, and it was my last night of my holiday, and I was on Tinder, as you do, and I kept like, he used to come up my Tinder quite a lot, and I was like, no, because if I have to go in then to get petrol off him, it's going to be too awkward, not going to do it. And then one night I was like, oh, feck it now. So I just swiped, and straight away we matched, and we met a couple of days later when I came home, and I poured my heart and soul out to him like in the first 10 minutes. And when I went home, I was like, right, if he doesn't run a mile now, this is definitely meant to be. Like,
of course.
He didn't run away, which I'm very surprised. But like I find comfort in it, like, because he reminds me of my dad in some ways as well, like his personality and that kind of thing. But like he was my blessing in disguise, like, because when he came into a point in my life when I was like, I didn't want to be here anymore, I didn't want to exist anymore.
It's so funny that you say I didn't want to exist anymore, because that's the only way that I could describe how I felt when I was a teenager as well. Like, that feeling first came on me when I was 15, and it did not leave me until I was maybe 23-ish, thereabouts. And maybe even a little bit later. But it was so strange, because it wasn't that I necessarily wanted to, like, I didn't want to commit suicide. It wasn't necessarily that I wanted to commit suicide. It was I wanted to click my fingers, and I wanted to have never existed, because I knew one thing I will credit my family for, because they are just unbelievable, but one thing I could never ever convince myself of was that they would be better off without me. And I don't mean that I'm like, I was sitting there going, I am such a fantastic addition to their lives. And it was, I knew that if I was to take my own life, that would absolutely devastate them. I knew it. So it wasn't, I wanted to not be here anymore without hurting them. Do you know what I mean? So I love that term, didn't want to exist anymore, I think is much better for, say, how I was feeling, rather than saying I was suicidal. I was suicidal, but that wasn't the actual option that I wanted. What I wanted was just to have never been here in the first place.
Because like I was the same. Like I did. There was points where I did try and end my life and stuff, and it's not a nice, obviously it's not a nice feeling, but like to get into that headspace where you're like, okay, this is it. Like, like that's like, that's dark. Like, it's really dark.
Oh,
And
yeah, absolutely.
like, I used to self-harm when I was a teenager and stuff like that. Like, and when I think back on it now, I'm kind of like, why, like, when I was 16, like, why didn't I just go, Mom, Dad, I need help? Like, do you know what I mean?
I often ask myself the same question, and I remember the first time that I actually cut myself. I don't remember doing it. I remember being sitting on my bed, and then it was like I blinked and there was blood everywhere, and I was like, whoa, how did this happen? And I think I often ask myself, why did I not just go to somebody? Why did I not just speak to somebody? And I just didn't have the language. I did not have the words for how I was feeling, because even now when I I often use the phrase stressy and depressy because it makes me laugh, really. That's the only reason I use it. But if I get depressy now, it's not that I feel overly sad, it's I feel absolutely nothing. Zero. I feel no feelings at all. And that was always I was always that way. It's like, what is even the point? Like, I don't even care. Whatever. And I just didn't have the language for that when I was younger. I didn't know that this was a thing. I didn't understand how to articulate that, or how to put that in, how to form a sentence to tell somebody how I was feeling. And I think also, I think also there was this whole feeling of, you know, like, because I was watching like Criminal Minds and things like that. And I literally was looking at them going, does this mean that I am at some point going to crack up and start killing people? And that was, I know that sounds so silly now, and I look back and I laugh, but that was a genuine fear that I had as well when I was younger, was that maybe I'm actually insane, and maybe if I tell someone, they're gonna lock me up somewhere.
That's like, exactly the way I was. Yeah,
and that's Joe, everyone has like their irrational fears. One of my grandmother, her thing was going blind. That was like, just used to freak her out completely, the thoughts of it. And then for me, it's been declared insane, because how do you come back from that? Do you know what I mean? And how do you convince, what if you're not insane and they say you are, and how do you convince them that you're not? And this just used to like blow my mind completely, to the point where it silenced me completely. And I was so terrified to talk about it. And I look back now and I'm like, well, that was just ridiculous, because that's like a kid being afraid of a dragon coming up the stairs in the morning. But there's no dragon. But I didn't know that was my dragon, and I didn't know that there was no dragons. Do you know, that kind of a way?
Exactly. And like, being that age as well, like, I remember, like, even in school, none of that was spoken about. None of it.
Not at all.
And even to the point of, like, even on TV, like, if you saw someone who had like a mental health problem on TV, it was portrayed as, right, there's your straitjacket, off you go. Do you know what I mean? So like, nobody back then, or even probably kids feel it now, you can't, it's very hard to talk to somebody about something that's, especially back then, is portrayed to be like, you're nuts.
But even, it's so funny, because, and if she's listening to this, you will know Miss Dugan. Miss Dugan saved my life. That woman, if I was to pick one point in my life where I went, yes, that person saved my life, she saved my life, because she, I used to have this awful thing about going into a room full of people when class had started. So I was standing outside, it was in 5th year, we had double maths first thing on a Friday morning, whose idea that was, I'd love to know, with Mr. Dalton. And this was before I had repeated 5th year, and I was late, and I was standing outside the classroom, and you know the way they had the window in the door, like over the door handle, there was like the long narrow window. So I was standing on the other side of that, so he couldn't see me. I must have put my hand on the door handle 10 times and then took it back off, and at that point then I was crying. I couldn't breathe outside. I was having a panic attack. I didn't know that at the time, but I couldn't breathe. So I ended up walking away from the door, but Miss Dugan had been watching me from wherever whatever classroom she was in. She'd been watching me, and she came and found me then after class and sent me down to the squashy couch for counselling, referred me down there. Now, the counselor that I went to, I don't think she even had the language for exactly what I was experiencing, because there was a lot of anxiety, and there was bits of an eating disorder and depression, but it was all wrapped up into one, and had been there for so long that nobody knew what came first, the fucking chicken or the egg. But it was only then that I had some words for how I was feeling. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But again, like at that age, nobody is talking about it, and if they are talking about it, they're taking the piss out of it.
Exactly.
Or they're kind of afraid of it, and that makes it next to impossible for anybody who is feeling that way to speak about it until it gets to a life or death situation. And then when it gets to life or death, then you're like, okay, there's all of these things, and I don't know how to word this, but this is kind of what it feels like. And then it comes out of you, and it's like a purge. It's like it's like it all comes out in one big, like what you said, like a bang, or it's like crash bang wallop. It all comes out at once, and then you're like, okay, how do I come back from this now? And I don't know about you, it took me the bones of what eight odd years to be able to speak properly about all of the things that I was feeling, and then took me another few years after that to cope.
Yeah, like I was the same, I'd say, like, and it's only now, and I literally posted this on my Instagram today actually, but it's only now that I'm actually have reached a point where I'm actually content with myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, I could lose a few pounds, or I could be pretty, or I could be this, I could be that. Do you know what I mean? But I'm actually, for the first time in a very, very, very long time, I'm actually quite content. And I never ever thought that I would get to that point in my life.
Isn't it so lovely when you go from a point, and this is not, it's not something you wake up with either. You don't wake up and go, oh, I'm content. It's you retrospectively at some point, like you're doing something stupid like brushing your teeth or putting on your shoe, and you kind of go, I haven't felt like death in a while. And it's like this little realization hits you. You're like, oh, okay. I can go with this. I like this. But isn't it so funny when you go from a place of such inner turmoil, and then you get to that point of inner peace, and you're like, I understand now.
Because like even like I remember even when I was like, I don't know, was it like 26, 27? Like I remember thinking like, I'm not going to see 30. I know for a fact I'm not going to see 30.
Yeah.
And like, I could never vision a future. Like I couldn't imagine myself when I'm 40 what I'd be doing. Do you know that kind of way? And it's only since I had Harper that my whole like outlook on life has changed. And it's crazy because like my mother said it to me the other day, she's like, did you ever think you'd have the patience for a child? And I was like, not really actually. But it's only when you have something so precious that you realize, life is good. Like there's a hell of a lot worse going on outside. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I was diagnosed, I'd say.
Exactly. And like I was diagnosed with postnatal depression after I had Harper, and the doctors had told me that would probably happen because I've suffered with depression, so it would happen. But when it happened, like when people think of postnatal depression, they think of someone not wanting their baby, they hate their baby, they can't, like, I was the complete and utter opposite. I was obsessed with her. I didn't want anyone to have her. I was the other end of the spectrum. And I had like, if this had been me 2 years ago, I would have been like, no, I'm fine. But because of her, I was like, I need to get help. I need to be the best person I can be for her. And the minute I went to the doctor, he was like, look, that's fine. Because I was like, is it normal that I'm the opposite to what everyone else thinks postnatal depression is? And he was like, it's totally fine. And I was like, okay, that's a professional telling me it's totally fine. Okay, grand. So he's like, I'm still on medication for the postnatal depression, but he's gradually weaning me off it now. Because like I went to him just before this whole lockdown thing started, and I said, he was like, do you want to come off them? And I was actually scared, because I was like, I don't want to go back to feeling the way I was feeling. Like, I used to be crying the whole time. As I said, obsessing over Harper. Now I'm fine now. Like, I wouldn't even, to the point probably I wouldn't even let her own dad, like, you know, I'd be like, I'll do it. I'll change her nappy. I'll feed her. You know, I just wanted me to do it. But like with that, like, it was only probably yesterday, I just looked at her and I was like, you know what? I've been through some load of crap, but like, if I have to go through every single stage of my life again to get her, I would.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Isn't it? I think there's that's a great place to be as well, is when you get to that point. Like, I look back at all of the different experiences I've had over my life, and the different shitty things that have happened, the different shitty things that I've been through. And I have to say, I am grateful for every single one of them, because my life would be on a completely different course if even one of those things didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Because there's, like, I'd be friends with different people, probably wouldn't have my dog. There's loads of different things that would be so different if all of those things hadn't happened. And I don't think I would be as compassionate as I am if those things didn't happen. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? And while you're in the middle of something shitty, Jesus, don't get me wrong, it's horrendous. But I think if you can get to a point where you look back on those experiences and you go, right, well, I got this out of that, or I learned this from that, or whatever. Well, then that's enough for me anyway, and I can kind of go, right, okay, well, that serves its purpose, but I'm not living in the past anymore. I'm moving forward.
Exactly.
But it's those experiences, all of those experiences shape us, whether we like them or not.
Exactly.
It's funny, but it is, I think, like with having a baby, that shifts the world completely, because we're up to that point, your world is you, and then you have your people outside of that, whereas now your world is you and baby. And you have this little tiny person to think of, and you have this little tiny person to live for, and this little tiny person who, without even realizing it, can now learn from all of your mistakes, and you can steer her in the right direction, and give her the words that you never had. Do you know, that kind of way? So that's nice as well. How old is Harper?
She is 13 months, nearly 14 months.
Cutie.
Her birthday was the day we all went into lockdown. Her first birthday. Yeah, so it'll be a birthday to remember. We won't be forgetting that anytime soon.
Yeah, definitely not. So tell me then about Little Bows and Tiny Toes. How did that come about?
So I used to have a blog, like, back kind of before my father passed away. And it was called Grey Skies and Silver Linings. And my dad was my biggest advocate.
I really like that.
It was really weird, because my dad was my biggest advocate for the blog. Like, he always just be pushing me to do things. He'd even bring me out, like, and we'd be taking pictures and all that kind of stuff. And when he passed away, then I kind of lost interest in it, and then I got back into it again. But then I remember, especially in Waterford now, and if anyone's listening to this, like, who was in this, like, scene at the time, they'll know what I'm talking about. Beauty bloggers in Waterford was just, it was crazy. Like, at this point in time, every single second person was a beauty blogger. Now, that wasn't my intention when I set up my blog at the time, because I wanted it to be a mental health thing. And I fell into this trap like everybody else, and I was like, oh, look, I got this makeup and like this stuff that I had no interest whatsoever doing. And I fell out of love with it. Like, so then I decided, when just before I had Harper, something to keep me occupied, I set up the Little Bows and Tiny Toes. Now, obviously, I found out Harper was a girl before I set up the account. But I just wanted to document my journey from, like, becoming, like, a mom for the first time, and obviously the ups and downs that comes with that. Like, it wasn't all smooth sailing from when I got pregnant to when I had Harper. Like, I was sick. I had really low blood pressure. Like, according to Robin, I nearly died on the table giving birth to Harper. I didn't, but I I lost a lot of blood, and
Oh, the
like
poor chap probably got nothing for it.
he thought this was it, like I was gone. Like Harper was in neonates for nearly 5 days, so I didn't get to actually, like I was the only mother in the ward
Yeah.
who had no
That
baby.
must be horrible.
Like I was in hospital for a week because I ended up getting an infection during labour, and
I never understood why they can't have like a room or a ward for the mummies whose babies are down in the neonatal unit. But that must be pure and utter torture, sitting
Grace,
in a
it
room.
was horrible.
6 other women or 5 other women who they've all got lovely, squishy, chubby, bouncy, fat little babies, and then you're sitting there all on your lonesome, and your baby is down in an incubator.
It was horrible. Like, and then, but I was on antibiotics then. I was on antibiotics then, so I had to be down at a certain time to take my antibiotics and all this. So like, I could go up and feed her and like could be with her and stuff. But I was in a lot of pain as well, and you know what I mean. It was kind of it was a mad experience, especially for your first baby. Like, but I was in hospital for a week. About a week after I had Harper. So 5 of those days she was away from me. And again, like I couldn't count how many women had babies and left, and I was sitting here going, "Hello, can I have my please?"
Please give me one.
Like I wanted to document that as well, like that. Again, it's not all like first of all, labor is not what it is like on the TV. It's not this screeching, and it's not like that at all.
Oh my, one born every minute, and I say this to my mother every single time. I remember my mother and my grandmother watching One Born Every Minute, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what is this? This is a horror film. What are you talking about? And the two of them are looking at me going, what are you on about? That's lovely. And I'm like, hang on a second now, all right? The two of you are done. You're finished. You've had your babies. You're done. This is a horror film, okay? And I never want to give birth. And I was genuinely, from looking at it on like One Born Every Minute, looking at it, like seeing all of these weird stories, genuinely, it's only this year I've come around to the idea that, maybe I could actually give birth. Maybe. But it was a fear of God in me for so long to be like, oh my God.
I never watched One Born Every Minute because before I had Harper, because I was like, no, I'm not doing it because I'll just freak myself out. But when I went in and had Harper, obviously there was a lot going on at the time, but it is not. Anyone listening here who was pregnant for the first time or taking a hand baby, it is not like it is in the movies or any like episodes on TV. It is so much more calm than this screeching like a demon. Like, it's not like that at all.
Oh my God,
like an exorcism happening or something.
Yeah,
like craziness. Like,
yeah, it freaks me out. But is anything like it happens in the movies? Do you know what I mean? Like, everything is so. I think that everything is so dramatized. But even then, you also have movies then where or this perception as well that's put out there that pregnancy, you see all of these like pregnant celebrities and they look great and they're glowing and they're wearing their nice dresses and and then they have their bouncing babies and everybody looks perfect and everybody's smiling, lovely skin and lovely shiny hair. And that's not real either. Do you know what I mean? So you have these two extremes of like, pregnancy is such a beautiful experience, and then you have this other one where it's like what you said, the screeching demon. But neither of them, from what I have witnessed, obviously I do not have a baby, but neither of those, from what I have seen, are completely accurate, because women, I think there's an awful lot of, like you with your experience with postnatal depression, or then you have women who have postnatal psychosis, or then you have preeclampsia is another one then as well, that that women have to be induced earlier, have to have emergency sections, and then you have miscarriage as well. There's all of these things that go along with it that you just don't hear about. And like my experience with postnatal depression, I was a close family member who told me about her experience with it years and years later, like after said kid was 15 or 16 at the time. And Jesus, that's a horrible thing to be going through. and then trying to keep it quiet and keep it away from people for whatever reason. Do you know
I've
what I
heard
mean?
of
Like
I
that.
heard of a few people like that as well, like that they've literally, the kids are like 16 or 17, and then they say, oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, when so and so was born, I was suffering with really bad postnatal depression. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
don't
then
know.
they call it then the baby blues. Sorry, depression is no blues, my dear. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's postnatal or any kind of depression, it's not the blues. It's an actual
Yeah,
a thing that a person suffers with. It's not
yeah,
just like, oh, I'm having a bad day. It's like, no, life's fairly shit at the moment, and I'm really struggling to come out
yeah,
of that headspace. So I love the fact that you did that to kind of speak about your experience, because there are so many real experiences versus what we see or
yeah,
what's kind of dramatized. And I suppose it's not only just preparing people, because One Word Every Minute I found painted everything like a horror story, and like you said, the screaming demon, again, it's like this terrifying thing. And then on the other side of it, then you have the perfect mommy, but then it's like there's the things that we're painting as being so scary are not actually that scary. And
exactly, yeah,
then we're the things that we really are like the likes of postnatal depression, people are like, whereas we
yeah.
should be talking about that and normalizing that, because I guarantee you it's a lot more common than any statistic will show.
Oh yeah, 100%, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, and it's a lonely place to be then as well, because like you're at home with your baby, and I'd imagine early stages of having a baby can be a little bit lonely as well, when you're trying to figure out, if one parent has gone back to work and you're trying to figure out like the lie of the land and how to do things, and then to have
Yeah,
something like that on top of it then as well, I'd imagine that can be quite a lonely place to be.
yeah, because like Robin took 4 weeks off work, so he took his 2 parental weeks, and then he took 2 holiday
Yeah,
weeks. But I
yeah.
remember the day he went back to work, I bawled my eyes out,
Oh,
because I was literally like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But like Harper had, when she had her 6-week checkup and I brought her to the doctor or to the nurse, I told them there and then that I didn't feel right. And like, and I was, really upset, and, I was
yeah.
obsessing over, and they said that baby blues, like that's your baby blues and it'll go away. And if it doesn't go away, come back. So I had to go back, because I was like, this isn't going to
Yeah.
go away unless I sort it out. Like,
Mm-hmm. And I suppose the baby blues then is obviously like a hormonal thing, and I've seen it. You see it. It's funny. I learn anything I've learned about a lot of what I've learned about human behavior has actually been things that I have learned from watching animals. So I've always had dogs. We have
yeah,
horses, and it's from watching them. That I've learned an awful lot. But say you see it often in animals when they give birth, or if they lose whatever kind of baby they're carrying, if they lose it, they'd be wicked, really, really, really genuinely out of sorts. And that's how I
yeah,
learned about hormonal imbalances and how much hormones can affect it. And I find that there is little to no education for women and how our hormones work, and how much our
yeah,
hormones can affect us, and how much they go up and down, not just when you're pregnant versus when you've had a baby, but also in our monthly cycles, how our hormones go
yeah, exactly.
all skewed. And it's not that there's anything bad about it, because there isn't, but it's just that they do fluctuate and they do go up and down, and what to expect when what is I feel like there should be some form of education for women on what are the baby blues, and what is postnatal depression, and where is the line, or what are some of the indicators, and how are these things happening. Because at least, I don't know about you, but at least if you know that, right, okay, I am currently suffering from postnatal depression, that is caused by an imbalance in this hormone, and this hormone, and that should level out in X amount of time, and these are the different ways that I can cope with that, and these are the different things that I can be doing. And I find, if for me anyway, I would feel that if I had that education, then I would feel armored with some form of information, rather than just floating through like, well, I have the baby blues, or I have this, or and not knowing what to do with it. I just feel like there's not enough education about anything.
Like at your antenatal class, like, okay, they do go through that kind of stuff, but not into, like, it's kind of just brushed over. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not gone through enough, I don't think. And like, again,
it's like sex education in school.
We didn't get ours till 5th year, I think, we were in school.
5th year,
yeah,
I mean? Same.
Do you know, it's
same.
crazy, like. It's
yeah.
But I think nowadays, especially, I suppose, the way the schools, like, obviously the Leaving Cert and all that, the way that's happening now, there should be, especially for probably boys and girls, there should be more mental health talks in schools, and there 100% should be as well. What you were just saying there, like, the baby blues, if you are, like, okay, I know you do it in science, but, like, you don't go into depth in science about, like, postnatal depression and the baby blues, all that kind of stuff. Like, you don't. But I think men, like boys in school now, they should be educated on it as well, because someday they are going to be dads, and they are going to have to deal with that woman who has the baby blues. Or
I think boys and girls should do. So, like, sex education, and then all of anything to do with pregnancy should come into that then as well. And I think they should all do it together. I do not think that girls should be learning about girl stuff and that boys should be learning about boy stuff.
100%.
They should all be learning about everything, because it really boils my blood when men get extremely squeamish about periods. Because in my head, I'm like, that happens once a month. For, like, the vast majority of a woman's life, it is that normal. It is literally that normal. Like, what else happens once a month? The first of the month happens once a month. Okay, it's as normal as that. And they're getting so squeamish about it. I'm like, oh my God.
It's crazy.
And it's just because of the taboo that's about it, and the lack of conversation and the lack of education. Do you know what I mean? That's all that it is caused by. Because I guarantee you, if they got a better education on that type of thing in school, they won't be half as squeamish. And you see it with young fellas as well. You can nearly spot a young fella who has sisters or grew up in a house full of women, because a lot of the time they just don't care. There's no eyelid bat at it. But then you see lads that have no exposure to it whatsoever. That are like, whoa, what is this like? Do you know what I mean? Like, education is just so important, because, well, then we're armored with enough information to know when we are healthy or when we are unhealthy, or is what's happening normal or is it abnormal. And it takes the fear. I find it takes the fear out of it, and it empowers you more, because you have all of this information then, so at least you can go about taking the steps to improve whatever it is for yourself. Or just, I don't know, I find for myself anyway, when I have the information, it settles my nerves an awful lot. Because like you said earlier on, you passed a comment there earlier on about coming off of medication and being afraid to slip back in. That's a massive thing that I have to deal with an awful lot as well, is the anxiety. It's not that I'm actually slipping back into the old patterns or anything before. It's just anxiety about that possibility.
Exactly, yeah. How easy it can happen.
Yeah, exactly. So at least if I have information, then I feel my nerves are settled. Education is just, with regards to anything, it's just so important. And I feel like we learn. School teaches us an awful lot of useless information and leaves out an awful lot of useful information.
Exactly. Like, how many times have you used, like, X squared and Y squared and all that in your everyday life?
Never. I've said this before with Katie, but home economics. Home ec is a subject I use quite regularly. Like, the things I learned in home ec, they are things I use quite regularly. But, like, other than that, there is an awful lot of, I said this before on the podcast, I said it with Katie and I said it on the podcast with Saib as well. I came out of school and then I had to go and learn how to live.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, I didn't know how to do life when I came out of school.
Grace, how many times did you say you left college? I was listening to this on the podcast.
Four, is it?
Because I was listening to the podcast the other day and I heard you saying that, and I was like, wow, here is your sister. Because I was the exact same when I left school.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just kept battering myself into college. I just kept,
exact
I
same.
think, because I was like, this is what I have to do. I will not be a successful human being if I don't go to college.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I just wasn't able for it, because like my anxiety, a lot of it stems from teachers and the way I was treated by teachers. That's how it started. It was in primary school, and teachers using humiliation tactics on small children, which I now look back on and I'm like, wait, what? You were allowed to do that to me? But you know, teachers humiliating me was for being overly chatty, was where my anxiety started. And that could just got worse and worse and worse as I went through school. And by the time I got to college, then with college, oh my God, it was, I cannot tell you how hard it was for me to get into a lecture in college. Like to sit down, just to actually get in and off I missed so much college. Half the time I'd be on the college ground, sitting in my car, roaring my eyes out, going like, why, what is wrong with me that I cannot get into this room?
Yeah.
Trauma is what it was, and I didn't, and I still don't know if I fully addressed that particular end of it. But I honestly thought that I was never going to amount to anything as a human being if I didn't go to college, and therefore I ended up creating a whole load of misery for myself, based on a lie, because college is not the be all and end all.
Exactly, yeah, 100%. That's because I was the same, exact same. Like for my leaving cert, my subjects that I did art, I did tech graphics, and I did biology, I think. I went to college. Never in my life have I done business studies. I went to college to do business studies.
Yeah.
I don't know. And my father had said, he was like, oh, it's a great backup, like, you know. I was kind of like, all right, okay, I'll do it. I barely went to class because I hated it. I had no friends. I absolutely hated it. I ended up dropping out just before the summer exams. I absolutely hated it. And I, like, when I think back on it now, like, I was only just gone 18 going into college. I hadn't a clue. I still don't know what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Thank you. We were watching, sitting down at my mother's house the other night, and we were watching Gangs of London. And there's a character in it called Lally. And Lally did something totally depraved. And me and my stepfather and my mother were watching it, and I turned around, I was like, I want to be her when I grow up. And my stepfather just burst out laughing, paused the television and turned around to me and went, you're never growing up. And it's like, I'm not. I do not know what I want to be when I grow up. And I have also come to the conclusion that growing up is a myth. Like,
yeah, definitely. Like, I'm 29 at the end of the month, and I don't know what I want to do with my life. So anyone that's listening here who's meant to be doing their leaving cert now, you don't know what you want to do, it's okay. It's normal, because nobody knows what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the funny thing is now it took me years and years and years to make peace with the fact that I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up. I have no idea where my life is going. And the funny thing is now I actually don't care, and I am the happiest, most content now than I ever have been in my life. I said this on the podcast with Sai, but like, I'm quite happy to do something for a few years and then just wake up one morning and be like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to make jam. And go make jam.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I remember when I was younger thinking I had to have this big highfalutin job, and I had to have this big highfalutin house and a big highfalutin place and big whopper of a car and all of this stuff. And as I've gotten older, I just kind of been like, yeah, I just want to make enough money to like be comfortable and not have to worry about money. And then after that, I want a house that is just big enough for what I need.
Yeah.
No bigger. And I want a car that is just enough for what I need and no more. And I think there is actually studies to back this up, but I have witnessed it firsthand how you get to a point with money where you haven't so much of it. There's like a threshold where you get to, like, you have enough money, and then you have more than enough money, and then you have a lot of money, and then it all starts to go downhill, because as you get more and more and more and more and more, you want more and more and more and more and more, and nothing ever be enough, because you're constantly chasing it, and then you'll get more money, and then you'll want more, and you'll want a bigger house and a bigger car and more stuff and Gucci this and need another Rolex and another Rolex and another Rolex, and it rots people after. Not money itself doesn't rot people, but it gets to a point where you just have there's too much, so nothing is ever enough.
Exactly.
And it's funny because when I was in school, that was where a lot of the pressure came from, was I need to have a good job because I needed to have loads of money, and that was how I was going to be successful. And the further I went into that in my head, the more miserable it made me. Whereas now I'm like I have a completely different take on it. But it took me 10 years, however many years I'm out of school, to come to that realization.
Yeah.
Because all through school, your success and your worth is measured based on what's on a piece of paper, and how you're doing in an exam, and but school was not suited to me at all, and doesn't seem to be suited to a lot of people, and just sets people up for failure. Whereas it's one avenue. Like school was as we know it, was invented during wartime, because the men were all gone to war and the women were doing the men's jobs, and there was nobody to mind the children. That's where school came from. Do you know what I mean? Like we were doing it other way. We were doing it other ways before that, and we can do it. There are other routes to success, and success is not just based on the money in your bank account. Success for me anyway is based on how content I am with my life. And money is a factor in that, but it's only a factor. It's not all of it.
Exactly.
So if you were to go back and I'm going to do two on this, because there's definitely two big monumental two big things there. But if you were to go back to Jamie when she was 15, 16, in school, that kind of stuff, what advice would you give to Jamie then?
Oh God, I think I wrote a blog post about this, but I never published it because I was a bit just to talk to somebody. Like growing up, like I wouldn't have a big group of friends. I never did. And my one thing that I'd say to myself is just be yourself. Because growing up, like I remember I was always trying to fit in with other people, and I just didn't fit in there.
No.
Do you know? And I definitely 100% would encourage myself then to speak to somebody, because that 5 years where I didn't tell anybody was probably the worst 5 years of my life, because I didn't know what was wrong, thought I was going insane, and I was scared. I was scared of my own thoughts, but I was scared of opening up in case I ended up in a straitjacket, do you know?
Yeah, the straitjacket fear was always very real.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is, I think about it now and I laugh and I'm like, that's so silly, but I also understand why I was so scared of that.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely the straitjacket fear was real. And then what advice would you give to the Jamie who in the year after you had lost your dad? And then during the explosion as well, a big explosion of emotions.
I think I would have taught myself to, look after everybody else, but look after yourself as well. Like I went to counselling after my dad died, and I could regurgitate a story. Yeah, because I at one point I had to tell the counsellor what happened, like literally play by play what happened.
Yeah.
And I think that made it worse. And she said to me, and it always sticks in my head, like, how can you can't help somebody when you can't help yourself.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was running on fumes trying to help everybody else, and it was just, I was no good to anybody. And if I was to talk to myself after my big explosion, I would just like, Jamie, cough the fuck on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Get a grip of yourself. Like, because they're like, I thought everyone hated me. I thought I didn't matter to anybody. And looking back on it now, I mattered to so many people, and I just was too I was in too much of a fog to see what was going on around me.
Yeah,
But definitely.
I definitely think we lie to ourselves. We make up lies, and then we pull things from the real world to back up our own lies. But like this whole notion of having yourself convinced that you don't matter to anybody, like in your like when you think about it now logically, of course you matter to people.
Yeah.
Of course you do. Like that's not even it's not even a question. But it's mental to me that our minds can go to those places where we are pulling all of these minute little details that actually don't mean anything and using them to back up this narrative that we've already built, that the whole world hates us and we're not worth anything and blah blah blah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're all fuckers for lying to ourselves. You made a point there about like that you can't help everybody else if you're not helping yourself. Trevor Noah is South African.
Love him.
Yeah,
love him.
So he I can't remember, he did a talk somewhere, I can't remember, but in that talk anyway he was talking about his book, and I think it was his mom said to him that basically his job, he was going to go to America, he was going to build all of his foundations, start a life for himself, become successful, and then, only then, when he had enough for himself, would he go back and help his family in South Africa. But he could not go back and help them with something that he didn't have. He had to go and build success for himself and build a life for himself and build some stability for himself before he could go back and help his family. And it's like you can't give somebody what you don't have. So if you don't, or this whole thing of like I think Saib said this on the podcast with her, that I did with her as well, that you fill your own cup and you help everybody else with the overflow. So so it is obviously, you want to, for anybody listening to this who feels like everything is crumbling, or that you're trying to help everybody around you and you just don't have enough to do it, it's probably because you don't have enough to do it. And like I found with myself that when I was trying to do that, I wasn't actually any help to everybody else anyway. Like I wasn't doing a whole lot to help them. I was trying, I was busting my arse, but I wasn't actually being helpful. And it was only when I retreated back into myself and I started looking after myself properly, that then all of a sudden I was able to be more help to everybody else than I had ever been able to do. Because I was whole myself, and I was after looking after my shit and after dealing with all of my little bits and pieces that needed to be dealt with. So then the cup was full, I had everything I needed, so I was able to give away the excess. So I think it's very, very, very important that we look after ourselves first, and then, because you can be of much more use to everybody else. But here's the thing, if something terrible has happened in your life, and then you're trying to help everybody else, and then all of a sudden you explode, that's not a help to anybody. The best thing that you can do for everybody, and most of all yourself, is look after yourself. I think, and I have found with myself anyway.
And definitely don't, like, because this was my problem as well, learn to say no and not feel guilty about it. Like, because that still is a problem for me. Like, I can't, if I say no, I'm the worst in the world. But I can't, like, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'd rather put that little bit more stress on myself and do that something for somebody than say no to them. But I still need to learn to say no, and like, just forget about it. Don't think there's any consequence or like that. Just say no if you don't want to do something, and look after you.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's very easy to get caught up in the like, oh, but if I say no, then they won't be able to do this, and then he's going to think that, and then they're not going to like me anymore, and nobody's going to love me, and you're going to have no friends. And it's like, no, if you say no, they're either going to have to do it themselves, or they'll ask somebody else. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And like, I find a lot of the time as well, I'd be weighing up the options. So like, if my grandfather asks me to do anything, I would always I would always say yes. And in fact, sometimes if I have to say no to my grandfather, I cry about it because the man never asks me to do a thing. And then if I do really have to say no, I get really upset about it. But like for him, if I can at all, I would always say yes because he asks me so rarely. But then, like, if it's somebody who's asking you, like, if it's somebody who, if it's something like, okay, realistically, if I say no to this, is anybody going to die? No. Okay, then it's fine because everything else is figure outable. You know, as Marie Forleo says, like, you can suss out everything else. Nothing is. Like, it's so funny. I don't know if does this happen with you, but I often look back at moments over my life where I'm like, I have absolutely lost me marbles over something, being like, this is the end of the world. And I look back at it and I'm like, that was not the end of the world. That wasn't even the end of the day.
There's so many things like that have happened to me that it's just like, this is it, this is the end, like, and then 5 minutes later, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, or
it's
even
crazy.
Like you wake up the next morning, you don't even think about it. It's like, well,
exactly.
I was being a little bit dramatic, maybe. So what are the things that you do now to look after yourself, to look after your mental health, to look after your well-being? What are the things that you do in your daily routine, weekly routine, that you definitely could not swap out? Like, these are absolutely necessary and mechanisms to help you deal with yourself in a healthy manner.
Well, my thing over dealing with my dad is, like, because it still obviously gets me, and I can still get very upset over it.
Yeah.
I talk about him every single day, without fail, whether I'm talking to Harper and she doesn't even know what I'm saying to her, if I'm talking to Robin, or like, he's always brought up in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it helps because I suppose in a way it's like he's still here. Do you know, that kind of way? And like, what I've done a few times as well is that, and I actually spoke about this on my Instagram account, was that I've written letters to him.
Yeah. So, oh, that's lovely.
But things like, I have them in a book, but things like, oh, Dad, did you see today Harper did this? Even though I know he, like, but wherever he is, like, if he could see, do you know, that kind of way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like, if I'm feeling really crappy, like, I might say, oh, Dad, like, I'm having a really crappy day, like, and blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like, talking about him every day, if not every day, every second day, it really helps that side of things. But what I've started to do now, when I get up in the morning now, it's like, one positive thing about the day, and I'm so conscious of being more positive about stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, every morning on my Instagram account, I put up a positive quote, whether people like it or not, I don't really care, but like, I put up something positive, and whether someone gets something from it or not, it's more for me to kind of be like, all right, today, well, you know, I'm starting my day off in this right frame of mind, you know?
Oh, of course. That's it. Like, it's perspective. I can't. Oh, my fly. Sorry. Perspective is everything. Absolutely everything. Okay, because there's like, you'll often see it with, like, you positive and negative. Say you often see it with people who are in a very, like, negative mindset. They tend to look at a situation and see how it negatively affects them. And then you have somebody in a positive mindset, or in an optimistic mindset, can look at a situation and see what's good in that situation.
Yeah.
It could be the exact same situations. The exact same. It could be, okay, my car is broken down. Right. One person could go out and look at that and go, fuck's sake, the fucking car is broken down, and it puts them in foul humor for the whole day.
Yeah.
And then another person could go out and go, oh, sure, look, I'll just have to walk to work. And they'll go and walk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then at some point during the day, they'll ring a mechanic, and then they'll go about their business, and then they'll go home, they'll walk home that evening, and they'll be like, all right, look, got a walk in today, look at all my steps.
But even like with my dad, when my dad passed away, right, obviously I was traumatized, but as the years have gone on, I've said this to only someone recently, like, you try to take the positive out of that situation. So I had my dad for 24 years of my life. Like, my dad died suddenly. He knew no different. He didn't suffer. Do you know what I mean? And okay, some people think I'm a bit mad now for being like, oh, you know, he didn't suffer, blah, blah, blah. But like, I know myself that if my father had survived, like the doctors told us, he would have ended up with brain damage. He would have been sitting in a wheelchair downstairs, and he wouldn't have been able to act for himself, and he would have hated that.
Look, the thing I find of this whole notion of at least they didn't suffer, that's a great. I think it's a great way to it's a great thing to take comfort from a little bit further down the line. I think the only time that actually causes that phrase causes more damage, is in the initial part, in the initial part of grief. Like, I remember when my nanny died, and people were like, "Oh, she didn't suffer," and I'm there going like, "That's not 100% accurate." And I know you're only trying to comfort me, but I really want to headbutt you. And you know, that kind of way. So in the first, like, when everything is raw, that phrase can definitely trigger some people. But it's also definitely a major source of comfort, because it's a reminder as well that things could always be worse.
Exactly.
They could always be worse. And it's like, yeah, things could be better, but they could be worse.
Exactly. Like, he knew no different.
Perspective. Yeah.
Exactly. And I know that's like, obviously it's a really bad situation, but like, for me to get some bit of comfort out of it, that's, you know, I kind of need to think, right, okay, he knew no different. Do you know what I mean? He closed his eyes, and that was it. Like, do you know what I mean? He never woke up again. Like, if he had woke up and knew what was happening, and knowing that and if he was going to leave me and my sister behind, like, that would have killed him. Like, do you know? So like,
I think can't even talk today. Perspective is just so important, because it is the difference in being able to make peace with something that has happened and move forward, or dwell on it for the rest of your life. And if you can take something positive, and you can give yourself that closure, then you can move on. A little, obviously you're moving on, and you're gonna take your dad every step with you. Do you know what I mean? The same way I will move on with my life, and my grandmother will be with me every single day until I take my last breath. I have no doubt of that. Do you know what I mean? But it's being able to look at the situation and go, right, it could have been a lot worse. So these are the things that happened that I'm grateful for. And it's like me and my mom were talking there a while back. As far as my nanny goes, with her death, I don't have any regrets, and neither does my mom. In that we did everything we could. We were there with her until the very end. Anything we could have done for her, we did. Anything that was in our power, we did. And like what I said, there's no regrets that way. So that's the comfort that I take from that, and that's the peace that I will take. Because I could sit here and dwell on the last few months of her life, and dwell on all of the things that went wrong, and all of the things that could have been done differently if we had different information. But we didn't have the different information, so we couldn't have done them differently.
Exactly.
There's no point in dwelling on it. There's just there's no point in eating ourselves up inside for things we can't change. All we can do is focus on the things that went well, and like what I said, move on from it then, because you have your life to be living as well. Like, my nanny is not here anymore, and Jesus, that devastates me when I really get into thinking about it. And the same, I'm sure there are moments where you are absolutely devastated that your dad is gone. But the fact of the matter is, they are gone. And you have your life to live, and I have my life to live. And then you have little Harper, who has a whole life ahead of him as well.
Exactly.
And you know, at the end of the day, it's I think with death, it is the circle of life.
Exactly.
And it's so funny, because it's happened to me a few times now, where I've heard of people who've passed away. And there's one instance in particular, this comes up in my head, but somebody posted a picture of somebody who had passed away, saying, rest in peace or whatever on Facebook, and I was scrolling and I saw this, and the next I scrolled and the very next post was one of my friends was after having a baby. And it's just, it was just a lovely little reminder that yes, like there will be death, but there is always life.
Because like the day my father passed away, I was meant to go to a wedding that day.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me, it was kind of like this couple are starting their next journey in their life.
Yeah, yeah.
But the day my father was buried, my cousin had her baby.
No way.
Yeah, and it was literally, I think I nearly 100% sure that like my father was literally only in the ground and she had her baby.
Yeah,
so,
like
it's nice to think that.
It is. I love that kind of a thing. I love, funny actually, I never even thought of this, but the week where my grandmother was, the week that my grandmother died, say, I can't remember the exact, I know my grandmother passed away on the Thursday, but as we were coming down, so she was in medical 6, to get to medical 6 you have to go through peds is on the ground floor, and then the maternity ward is on the first floor, and the medical 6 is on the second floor. And as me and my mom were going down in the lift, my mom's cousin's mother gets into the lift because my cousin was just after having a baby as well.
No
so
way.
I think that was the day before or 2 days before my nanny died. But it's a circle of life, and I do take great comfort from things like that, because of course there's always going to be sadness in the world, but there's always going to be joy. And it's just a perfect example of there being a balance and things coming and going. So Jamie, have you any other words of wisdom that you would like to impart on people, or anything else that you'd like to
Oh God,
say?
I don't know.
I really enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah, so did I. Thank you so much for having me on.
Not at all. So where can people find you on the interwebs, should they so choose?
So I have an Instagram account called Little Bows and Tiny Toes. It's, as you were saying, I'm trying my best for the positive vibes, and it's a bit of everyday life with me and my daughter and my partner and our little dog, and just documenting their everyday life and the ups and downs of being a mammy.
See, I love that kind of thing, because last year I remember going, like, doing a call on Instagram on following a load of people that were like famous people and celebrities, because I was depressed off my head looking at them with all their nice clothes and their nice cars and their big houses and their fancy holidays and da 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 da. And I think it's lovely just to follow people who are like me. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I could go onto your Instagram and say, if you were going on holiday somewhere, chances are that holiday is also achievable for me. So I can be like,
exactly.
I'm going to put that on the list. Or, you know, you might go get coffee somewhere, you might go get food somewhere, like, I'm going to go get food that place. And, you know, they're all little achievable. You can look around at people who are like you, and things that are actually achievable, rather than looking at things that are just out of your reach. And obviously it's great for everyone to have aspirations, but for somebody like me who lets comparison thieve her joy on a regular basis, it's nice to just look at people who are on the same wavelength as me, or in similar situations, or like this, in the same town. Do you know?
Exactly.
I think it's much nicer, rather than looking at celebrities and being comparing to them the whole time, because it's not fair.
And you can relate to people more, I think, like, because even like there was a blogger that I was following, and she had her baby a couple of days before me, and I saw her pictures and I was like, oh my God, like, you don't look like that for a baby. But then when I had Harper, I put the photo of literally when she was born and her on my chest, and the amount of messages I got of people going, oh my God, did you put your makeup on just for that picture? I was like, no, I didn't. I literally I was in the height of labor walking on the prom in Tremor, and I was only going in. Harper was overdue anyway, but I was only going in to get like my normal routine checkup. And when I went in, like, so I was dressed for the day, had my makeup on and everything, but loads of people were messaging me going, oh my God, did you go to that effort for that makeup for that picture? I was like, no, I didn't. And then people started, actually the midwives were asking me in the hospital, what foundation is that? It's great. I was like, yeah, it's push proof anyway. So it was the Note BB, it was the Note BB cream or something. One nurse like, I'm going to have to buy that shit, because if you can go push out a baby with that on you and it doesn't budge, well, I'm definitely getting it.
It's like, so funny though, the people are like, did you just put makeup on for that picture? So what if you did?
Exactly.
Like, what about it? You know what I mean?
Like nothing better.
I remember when Kate Middleton had whichever baby it was. I remember she had that. It was the first one, and she had that lovely blue and white polka dot dress on her coming out of the hospital, and people were like giving out stink about her having her hairdresser go in to do her hair. I was like, hang on a second now, okay? There are hundreds of men with HD and like what's the word? I can't even think of the name of the cameras now, but like proper cameras outside the hospital. Hundreds of them, wait to plaster that poor girl's face in every magazine and on every website that ever existed. Of course, she got her hairdresser in. It's like, did you get your hair done? Did you get your hair done for your wedding? Because there's about to be as many pictures, if not more, as there was on your wedding. But yeah, it's so funny. Isn't it so funny how people feel the need to pass comment on things like that?
This is my thing about social media at the minute as well. Like, if you don't like somebody or you don't like what they're putting up, just unfollow them. It's not that hard. Like, the amount of like horrible comments I've seen online from people, like, not to me, like, but even on like TikTok and stuff like that. Like, now I've never done a TikTok video in my life, but I've started kind of following people on. But what? Like, why? What is the need to put someone down? The fact you'd have time.
I don't understand why you would want to. So say if I was following you and you drove me insane, okay, and I didn't like your content, and every time I looked at you I was getting angry. Why would I want to constantly expose myself to that kind of negativity? And it's not that you're breathing the negativity is coming from me because I'm the one who can't bear you. But like, why would I want to put myself in bad form on a daily basis? Why not just, it's really simple, it's just one button and you press unfollow. Like, why?
That's it.
Why?
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely don't get that. This whole need to abuse people on the internet, I just don't understand it. Like, just unfollow them. Stop exposing yourself to it. Stop getting into that cycle of negativity.
You'll feel a lot better if you just move on from it. Like,
yeah, exactly. Because that person is not putting you in bad form. You are putting yourself in bad form by constantly looking at them. So, like, take back control a little bit, please, people, please. But yeah. All fun and games. Jamie, thank you very much for coming on.
Grace, thank you for having me.
No, not at all. I will link Jamie's Instagram below. Definitely go and give her a follow, because, as I said, I like your content because it's real and there's good vibes, and I'm all about the good vibes, because I truly believe that we can choose what we expose ourselves to. So you might as well expose yourself to something that puts you in good form.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for all of the support so far, Katie, and I really, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and until next week, we will chat to you guys soon.